Welcome to the Pearls of Wisdom podcast, brought to you by Southern Jewelry News and Jewelry Store Marketers. Hello, everyone. This is Guy with Jewelry Store Marketers, and we have another episode of the Pearls of Wisdom podcast. I don't have Elisa Dillon with me, but I do have Chuck Keohler of Anthony's Jewelers here with me, a popular columnist in Southern and Mid-America Jewelry News. Everybody loves reading your stuff. Today, I am outmanned by the Chucks because we also have another Chuck Frey of Charles Frey and Company. So,
hi guys, it's a pleasure to be here.
Good now,
and it's a good name, Chuck. You've been named well.
Yeah, I like it. Now, tell me real quick, briefly. We're going to go into a lot of these aspects, but in a real concise format. What does Charles Frey and Company do?
We're a company with 40 years of experience generating cash-raising events for jewelers.
Okay.
That can include getting rid of old inventory, stock reduction, can include moving, consolidating, retirement, passing the torch to the next generation, or completely going out of business and cashing everything in.
Okay. I know a lot of jewelers that like raising cash, so I'm one of them, so I'm glad I'm here. But kind of what I want to talk about today is most of us in the industry know what a going out of business sale is, because the goal is to, when you sell that last piece of jewelry, you got nothing left and you're done. Right. And so most of us understand that, but there are a lot of transitions where, you know, a longtime employee, a family member, a business owner, that the business is going to continue and somebody else is going to own it. And that gets very gray. And so your company specializes in working through that transition. Am I correct?
Yes. The first thing that I would say, the transition is kind of in two parts.
Okay.
The first part is where you might need a coach, and there are a lot of good coaches in the industry to help you determine who is taking over the business and what the role is, because there may be more than one person in a family that's interested in taking it over.
Okay.
What we deal with is, once you have worked out your buy-sell agreement, once you have the people you're transitioning to in place, we're usually the people that help you fund the process.
Okay.
And one of the biggest things in this process is setting a purchase price. We see it all the time, whether you're attempting to sell it to somebody in the outside or you're attempting to sell it to a family member. What's it worth?
Yeah, everybody's got this pie in the sky number. You know, it's worth $3 million and I won't take a dime less.
Right. Well, here, I'm going to read you some accounting practice methods.
Okay.
There is the market capitalization method, the economic added value method, the price earnings ratio method, the book value method, the discounted cash flow method. When I Googled it, there were 16 or more. Okay. These are all accounting-based methods based on the kind of company you have and how it generates its income to determine the value of your firm. Well, it frequently turns out to be a value that's very high, probably realistic in an insurance situation.
Yeah.
The business has been destroyed by some catastrophe. Or you're being looked at by a larger corporation that wants to buy out your smaller store and make it part of a chain. And that's very fitting for those numbers. But in the kind of event or the kind of transition we're talking about, if you get an evaluation for $2.5 million in a store doing $1 million a year, how do the kids pay for that? How does a realistic buyer come up with the cash for that?
Yeah, because really what I want to focus on is the transition that the business you just spent the last 30 or 40 years building isn't ending, it's going forward.
Exactly.
And so you're basically going to tell us, or tell everybody, how you can help them fund the transition. So that's what I want to hear.
The first thing is, let's get to a purchase price. And forgive my voice.
Sure.
What we would recommend, that if you're dealing with a company that does cash raising events or liquidations, every one of us start by putting together a projection for the kind of event you're trying to run. It takes into accounting the period of time, the amount of business we think the sale will do, all of your expenses, and ultimately gives you a net cash number. For instance,
how often are you, I know you don't hit that number 100% of the time, but how reliable is, like, how often do you get pretty close to that number?
Well over 90%.
Okay, well, good. All right, that's
Well
good to
over
know.
90%.
Yeah.
Right. And basically what we're doing is, let's say you were looking for the purchase price of your store. I would say let a company like mine, and there's several of us out there, do a total liquidation projection. When I say total liquidation, liquidate all the inventory to the public, sell off all the shop equipment, see if you can sell the turnkey. Heck, pull the Celotex blocks out of the polishing room and melt them for the gold that's in them. Find out the total amount of cash you can generate on paper from a liquidation, and it's a range. And typically we see stores today that, if they've got good reputations, can hit between 100 and 200% of their annual volume.
Okay.
Once we have a range, we can then take a look at what it costs and come up with the most important number: how much cash is left over.
Mm-hmm.
In a recent sale that we did, which was a transition, it was a store doing about $1 million, and mother wanted to sell out and daughter wanted to buy. Mother needed the money, daughter didn't have the money. And so we looked at a total liquidation projection and said it would do between 1 million and 1.75. Well, they took a number right in the middle as the purchase price, and then they dropped down to the net cash that we showed, and it said if they hit $1 million, they might come up with $700,000 in net cash. If they hit $1.75 million, they might come up with somewhere around $1.2 million in cash. So they settled on a number somewhere around 800.
Chuck, I'm curious, Chuck, what stage in the discussion or the thought process do you normally do this?
This is right at the beginning.
Right at the beginning. So
When
they're trying to determine what they want to do.
When you have the
And do y'all
conversation
come
about,
on site and do that, by the way?
well, we can do it both ways.
Okay.
Typically, the first conversation, and it's very convenient. All we have to do is have an honest conversation about your goals,
An honest.
Yeah.
an honest one. Okay. Then the next thing we have to do is have your numbers, which can all be done over the internet or by email.
Yeah, phone and email.
And then we can put together the paper transition, or I should say the paper projection, and send it to you and have that discussion. Then it would make sense if it looks good moving forward for us to come out and visit, because we then have to assess inventory,
Sure. Okay.
neighborhood, advertising, all the things
Okay.
that come into this.
Okay.
So in this particular situation, once they have the total liquidation projection on the maximum amount it could do, and they've decided on a purchase price that may have come out of that range, now it's a matter of implementing a transition sale, which may not generate as much, but it allows you to generate. In this case, we generated closer to 1 year's annual volume, when the liquidation might have done 1.5 times 150% of annual volume. And they came up with a pool of about $725,000. Mother got $400,000 down. Daughter took the rest of it to refresh the inventory and run the business.
Mm-hmm.
Mother's getting a buyout over whatever period of time they agreed to on the remainder of the purchase price.
Okay.
And all of that was sewed into her estate planning, because there was another family member involved that had nothing to do with the store, but certainly was a beneficiary of the purchase price to mother,
Yeah.
because that was part of her estate, which they would have participated in.
Yeah, but so I guess what I find interesting about this is somebody wants to sell and
Right.
somebody wants to buy, and you can generate enough money without no money changing hands at the beginning. You can generate enough money to accomplish that through this sale.
Right.
And where everybody kind of gets paid and then the business continues on, which I think is really cool.
And it happens more often than not. When you have stores like we deal with in this industry, stores that are around 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years. We just did one for a store that was 70 years in the making.
Mhm.
For something like 10, 12 years, father and daughter talked about it. Daughter finally decided, this is not for me. So they went and did a liquidation sale. But the point was, they could have gone either way. And in stores like this, where you have such a good amount of goodwill, that if I came into Chuck's store I may not be able to inherit your goodwill because you can't go out and have lunch or dinner or breakfast in your town without a customer coming up to you.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't know who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so what you're really doing is you're taking advantage of the goodwill in a transition to generate a lot of sales because mom or dad are retiring and this is a big event.
Yeah.
And you're buying them out and people show up for the good deal.
Yeah, and nobody's expecting the business to go out of business.
Right.
At which point the new owner who takes over inherits all of the goodwill.
And only the people who are A, family members have been in the store, or B, long-term employees can do that.
Yeah.
We've actually seen it where somebody decided to close down their store but was able to sell the turnkey for a considerable amount of money, provided they could get the staff to stay because they knew the entire customer base.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's so many options in a transition and so many ways to put it together and fund it with a sale within the family, within the store. Okay. And so.
Well, what if you wanted to, technically you wanted to retire,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't really have a buyer in mind? How would one go? Like, say, if I decided in 10 years I wanted to retire, but I don't have anybody that wants to take, because that's what a lot of stores are facing.
No buyers.
Yeah. Yeah, that they don't have it. Nobody in the family wants to take it over. So how does somebody find a buyer? Do y'all offer that? Is that something y'all do? Or I don't know. I know it's kind
not
of
an easy thing to do.
Yeah, that's kind of
it's
what
not
I
an
think.
easy thing to do. We've worked with plenty of stores that said they had a buyer, and after we get involved, what they want to do is they want to buy the turnkey.
Yeah.
We've often kind of quipped about the fact that there's two types of buyers. There's the buyer that knows the industry and knows the business and knows that they have to make their profit on the buy and they can't pay you what your goodwill is worth.
Yeah.
They're usually knowledgeable and can buy your store, but will buy it for a lot less than you can liquidate it for.
Yeah.
Why would you settle for less than what you can get from a total liquidation?
Exactly.
Okay. And what they'll do is they'll try to buy it for as little as possible. And then there's the other type of buyer that really doesn't know the business. They're in love with being in the jewelry industry, have no money, and will pay you anything you want for it, just so long as you take back the paper.
Yeah.
Okay. Those are usually not realistic buyers.
Yeah.
So what we have done in some cases, and this has worked out, it doesn't always work out, but it works out in some places where we'll say retiring seeking buyer as the headline in our sale.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
And clearly state that we're liquidating our inventory and actively seeking a buyer. And it's surprising how many times somebody shows up, whether to buy all of the turnkey cases, maybe the turnkey itself, or actually seriously wants to buy the business.
Well, we had this restaurant. My store was on a little neighborhood called Elliston Place. And we had this little soda shop, a Meat and Three, that was there since 1939. And on I think it was a Thursday morning, we found out that Friday was their last day in business. It was just like business had been, the owner had just gotten to the point where didn't like running it anymore. She'd had it 30 years. And so the business was going to close the next day.
Right.
So I was the head of the Merchant Association. So I called up the press and just said, hey, everybody, letting you know that Elliston Place Soda Shop is closing tomorrow. So all of the press shows up and everybody's like, oh my God, I haven't eaten there. I want to go.
Mm-hmm.
But all of the press that they got from that they were going out of business, there was a guy who was looking for a business and had the money, and he showed up, and the Elliston Place Soda Shop is still in business today.
And that's the truth of it. If you don't have a buyer, sometimes advertising makes all the sense in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's in the context of the actual liquidation sale, it makes it so much more interesting to a potential buyer. First of all, they may not have known you were even thinking of it. I'll give you a good example. We did one, it's got to be a good 15 years ago. I'll leave the owners' names out.
Sure.
But they couldn't find a buyer. The business had been in business a long time, and it was their dream to see their family business continue.
Right.
That's a normal thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we did the retiring seeking buyer, and within a couple of weeks' time, a smaller, younger jewelry couple that had been in the town that this older couple actually liked very much came to them and said, if we can buy your store, it'll make our business.
Mhm.
They had no idea. Neither party had any idea until we put it up in bright lights.
Yeah.
Right.
And they came to a deal, and then we switched from retiring seeking buyer to the store has been sold. And the owners need to liquidate their inventory before the new owner takes over. Come meet the new owner.
Right.
Yeah.
And it worked out very, very well. We had a very strong liquidation sale of inventory, and we left them in the position of having to work the actual liquidation sale before they took it over.
Yeah, because with the going out of business sale, all of the customers you've had all those years know that, once it closes, we're never going to go back there. It's closed.
It's gone.
But like you say, you sell that goodwill in a transition sale. So
Right.
that's interesting. All right. Interesting. So how does somebody get a hold of you?
Well, you can find us on the internet under Charles Frey and Company Incorporated. If you go on the website, you can read lots of stories like this. We have lots of testimonials and letters that describe situations like this. Toll free, you can reach us at 888-688-1881, or you're welcome to just call my cell, 843-991-1062.
Okay. Well, anyway, Chuck, very nice
Chuck?
talking to you.
Hey,
No,
pleasure.
and this is something we had talked about this probably the last couple of shows that we wanted
Right.
to get together and let everybody hear this because, there's a lot of people out there that need to know that you can transition and Chuck Frey can help you do it.
Well, here's the thought I would put out to you. Whenever anybody thinks about this, it's not a 5-minute decision. It's sometimes years in the making, frequently years in the
Yes.
making. What I would highly recommend is get in the conversation with the people who you're transitioning to,
Yeah.
and get into a conversation with a company that can help you do the transition sale, because all of you will have to come together on how this is going to happen. And no two of them are the same.
Yeah, and the buyers and the sellers, nobody has an idea what it's worth.
Nope.
Yeah.
So anyway, wonderful conversation.
I
Thanks for
think
coming.
everybody
Thank you,
should
gentlemen.
definitely check out charlesfryco.com, because there's a bunch of videos there, the testimonials that talk about how much the results that you've gotten for your past clients, and they're really informative. Reach out to Chuck. Yeah, show them some love on their website and anywhere, or
We love love.
buy them a drink at the next show. But also make sure to check out Southern Jewelry News. The Pearls of Wisdom podcast is a collaboration between Southern Jewelry News, Jewelry Store Marketers. Thanks a lot. Catch you on the next one. Thanks for listening to the Pearls of Wisdom Jewelry podcast. For more information about the show, please visit southernjewelrynews.com/podcast, brought to you by Southern Jewelry News and Jewelry Store Marketers. Make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform so you can catch the next show. See you then.